I knew the company was heading for a thermal runaway event the moment Jason walked into my office wearing a fleece vest that cost more than my first car and smelling like desperate ambition and expensive hair clay. I'm Sabrina. I'm a security control assessor for a mid-sized defense contractor just outside of Austin, Texas. Well, I was. My job, to put it in terms that don't require a security clearance to understand, is to be the professional paranoid. I am the reason we pass audits. I am the reason the Department of Defense trusts us with data that could, theoretically, turn a grid coordinate into a parking lot. I don't smoke, I don't drink on weeknights, and I treat federal compliance guidelines like scripture. My office is a windowless box kept at 68 degrees, filled with the hum of servers and the smell of ozone. It's my sanctuary, or it was, until the owner's son decided to disrupt the workflow. Jason, 32 years old, an MBA from a university that probably accepts crayons on the application, and recently appointed as the innovation lead. His dad, the actual owner, is a decent man who built this place on grit and soldering irons, but he has a blind spot the size of Texas for his fail son. Jason thinks compliance is a suggestion, and security is an app you download on your iPhone. He leaned against my doorframe, sipping some green sludge from a shaker bottle. Sabrina, hey, quick sync. I didn't look up from my triple monitor setup. I was knee-deep in a log review for the upcoming DCA audit. I'm busy, Jason. The audit is in 6 days. Unless the building is on fire, go away. That's actually what I wanted to talk about, he said, stepping in uninvited. He pointed a manicured finger at my side monitor, where a Python script was quietly scrolling through lines of code. What's that? It's not the company dashboard. It's a personal project, I said, keeping my voice level. It's a heuristic log aggregator. It cross-references our shipping manifests with the security gate logs to ensure, personal project, he interrupted, latching onto the phrase like a pit bull on a chew toy. So you're doing personal work on company time? I finally spun my chair around. The air conditioner hummed aggressively, masking the sound of my patience evaporating. It's a tool I built to make sure we don't get fined into bankruptcy, Jason. It automates the verification process. It saves me 4 hours a day. It's a distraction, he declared, puffing out his chest. I've been looking at the metrics. You're not hitting the ticket quotas for the help desk. I'm not help desk, Jason. I'm the SCA. I don't reset passwords for Karen in HR. I make sure we don't commit treason by accident. We need focus, he said. Buzzing with buzzwords, we need total buy-in. And honestly, Sabrina, your energy, it's very legacy. We're pivoting to a lean, agile security posture. And this? He gestured vaguely at my life's work. This personal coding stuff, it proves you're not all in. I stared at him. I calculated the odds of him understanding the words NIST 800 to 171 compliance. The probability was 0. So, he continued, smiling that shark-like smile people learn in seminars about assertive leadership. I'm going to have to let you go. Effective immediately. We need hunger in this role, not hobbies. Listen, before I tell you how I burned his inheritance to the ground, do me a favor. If you enjoy watching incompetent Nepo babies get absolutely destroyed by federal bureaucracy, hit subscribe button and maybe upvote this story. It helps the algorithm find more people who appreciate the fine art of malicious compliance. All right, back to the disaster. I stood up slowly. I'm not a tall woman, but I can project a level of stillness that makes Marines uncomfortable. You're firing the security control assessor 6 days before a $280 million contract renewal audit? We'll stream it, he said. Streamline, I corrected automatically. Whatever. We'll distribute your duties. The IT guys can check the logs. It's just data, Sabrina. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I looked at him, really looked at him. He had no idea. He thought I was just a glorified librarian for computer files. He didn't know that I was the reason the DCA auditors didn't tear this place apart annually. He didn't know that my personal project was the only thing catching the errors his lean new shipping procedures were creating. Okay, I said. His smile faltered. He expected a fight. He wanted a fight so he could tell his dad I was emotional. Okay, you want my badge? I unclipped it from my belt and tossed it onto the desk. It landed with a plastic clatter. Do I get a severance or do I need to call my lawyer? 2 weeks' pay. Standard, he said, looking relieved. I'll have security escort you out. Don't bother, I know the way. I grabbed my purse and my personal hard drive, which, thankfully, I had unplugged 10 minutes ago. I didn't touch the company machine. I didn't delete my scripts. I didn't wipe the servers. I'm a professional. I don't sabotage. I just leave. And when you remove the immune system, the virus doesn't need help. It just needs time. As I walked through the bullpen, the open plan office hellscape Jason had designed, I saw the faces of the other IT staff. They looked terrified. They knew. Dave, the network admin, mouthed what happened at me. I just shook my head and kept walking. I stepped out into the Texas afternoon. The heat hit me like a physical blow, 103 degrees of wet, suffocating blanket. My sunglasses fogged up instantly. I walked to my sensible Toyota Camry, unlocked the door, and sat in the baking heat for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. My phone buzzed. It was a notification from that personal project Jason hated so much. I had it set to push alerts to my private cloud for redundancy, a feature I'd implemented because the company servers were prone to hiccups during thunderstorms. Alert, log discontinuity detected. User, admin Jason. Action, privilege escalation. Timestamp 1402. I stared at the screen. He hadn't even waited for me to leave the parking lot before he granted himself full admin rights. Then another alert. Alert, audit trail mechanism disabled. User, admin. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. He wasn't just firing me to show dominance. He was firing me because he needed to move something fast and my protocols were in the way. He thought he was clearing a roadblock. I started the car, cranking the AC to max. The cool air blasted my face, drying the sweat on my forehead. I wasn't sad. I wasn't even angry, really. I felt a cold, hard knot of anticipation forming in my stomach. It was the feeling you get when you see a car speeding on wet pavement, and you know with mathematical certainty that physics is about to teach someone a very expensive lesson. He had fired the watchdog. Now the wolves were going to eat. My apartment is like my code, clean, functional, and minimal. I don't have live, laugh, love signs on my walls. I have framed schematic prints of vintage circuit boards and a bookshelf organized by the Dewey Decimal System. It's quiet. The kind of quiet that rings in your ears after you've spent 10 years listening to the white noise of a server farm. I threw my keys in the bowl by the door and went straight to my home rig. It's a custom build, liquid-cooled, powerful enough to run simulations for NASA if I wanted to. I booted it up, the RGB fans glowing a soft, menacing red. I pulled up my private cloud interface. Here's the thing about being a federal compliance officer. You document everything. It's not paranoia, it's the job description. Over the last 5 years, I had built a redundant logging system. It wasn't malware, it was a legitimate continuity tool I'd proposed to management 3 times. They ignored it, so I ran it as a background utility to ensure I didn't lose data when the power grid flickered. Jason had called it a distraction. In reality, it was a black box recorder for the entire company. I opened a Topo Chico, the bubbles biting my tongue, and watched the data stream in. The connection was technically severed. I wasn't on their network anymore, but the cloud sync on the server side was still active. Jason hadn't killed the process yet. He probably didn't even know what SVC log synchy exe was. He likely thought it was important. Logs told a story that made my stomach turn. 14:15 Security protocols for the shipping bay explicitly overridden. 14:20 Inventory counts for Class 3 components manually adjusted by admin. 14:45 3 automated missing export license flags deleted from the queue. I sat back, the cold condensation of the bottle dripping onto my hand. You idiot, I whispered to the empty room. It wasn't just incompetence. It was fraud, or at least it was aggressive negligence bordering on fraud. The company makes guidance chips, boring, expensive little squares of silicon that end up in very important, very fast-moving things. The paperwork for shipping these things is thicker than a Bible and twice as complicated. If you miss a serial number, the shipment sits. If the shipment sits, we miss deadlines. If we miss deadlines, we lose the contract. Jason was bypassing the checks. He was forcing shipments out the door to pump up the quarterly numbers before the audit. He wanted to show his dad that under his lean leadership, efficiency had skyrocketed. He was shipping unverified hardware to the Department of Defense. I felt a phantom vibration in my pocket. My work phone was on the desk, powered down. I had left it there, but my personal cell was buzzing. It was Dave, the network admin. Dave, he's deleting the commit history. He says we need a clean slate for the auditors. Sabrina, you need to tell him. I typed back, then deleted it. I typed again. I don't work there, Dave. He has admin rights. Good luck. I put the phone face down. A wave of nausea hit me, not from fear, but from the sheer waste of it all. I had spent 7 years building that compliance framework. I had written the standard operating procedures, SOPs, by hand. I had trained the staff. I had argued with engineers who wanted to use password 123 for root access. I had built a fortress of accountability. And in 4 hours, a man in a vest was dismantling it brick by brick because he thought the bricks were ugly. I looked at the calendar on my wall. The DCA Defense Contract Audit Agency was scheduled to arrive on Tuesday. Today was Wednesday. They had 4 business days. I opened a new folder on my personal drive. I named it The Fall. I started dragging the mirrored log files into it. Every time Jason overrode a warning, I saved it. Every time he disabled a firewall rule to speed up the Wi-Fi, I saved it. I wasn't gathering ammo. I was building an autopsy report. The sun began to set, casting long orange shadows across my living room. The Texas sky turned a bruised purple. I ordered Thai food, extra spicy, because I needed to feel something other than this cold. Calculating dread. When the delivery driver arrived, I checked the receipt out of habit. Correct items, correct time, competence. It was such a low bar, yet my former employer was currently limbo dancing under it with a stick of dynamite in his teeth. I ate my curry and watched the logs. 1930, admin attempts to access the encrypted archive. Access denied. 1931, J admin attempts to reset password for encrypted archive. Failed. 1935, system alert. User J admin has flagged compliance history DB for deletion. He was trying to erase the past. He didn't realize that in federal contracting, the past is the only thing that matters. You can't delete history when the government is paying for it. I took a sip of water. The deletion failed. I had hard-coded that file to be immutable without a physical key, which was currently sitting in a safe deposit box at my bank. Good luck with that, Jason, I muttered. I went to bed early. I slept like a baby who knows exactly where the bodies are buried because she drew the map. Thursday morning started with a text from Linda in HR. Linda is a sweet woman who brings donuts on Fridays and thinks the cloud is literal water vapor. Linda, honey, he's asking for the passwords to the safe. The one with the hard drives. He says you changed them and didn't update the sheet. I didn't reply. I didn't change the passwords. I had updated the sheet 3 months ago per protocol 4.2a. The sheet was in the binder. The binder was in the safe. To get into the safe, you needed the combination, which was in the sealed envelope in the owner's desk. If Jason didn't know that, it meant he hadn't read the handover documentation I left on his desk 6 months ago. The documentation he used as a coaster for his protein shakes. I made coffee. French press, black. I sat on my balcony watching the heat shimmer off the asphalt of the parking lot below. My phone buzzed again. Dave, server room is 78 degrees. He turned down the AC to save on overhead. Says servers don't need to be that cold. Drives are spinning up loud, Sab. I'm scared. I took a slow sip. 78 degrees. That's within the operating limit technically. It pushes the failure rate up by about 14% for our specific drive arrays. It was a calculated risk if you knew the math. Jason didn't know the math. He just knew the electric bill was high. I opened my laptop. The mirror link was still active. Warning, drive array 4 temp critical. Warning, write error on sector 7G. He was cooking the evidence, literally. I spent the day gardening. I have a small collection of succulents on my balcony. They survive in harsh conditions, store resources efficiently, and have prickly defenses. I relate to them. As I repotted a particularly spiky aloe vera, I thought about the innovation lead. By Friday, the silence from the company was deafening. No one was calling me directly anymore. That meant Jason had issued a gag order. He was probably telling them that I was a disgruntled employee, that I had sabotaged the systems, that everything breaking was my fault. It's the classic narcissist playbook. Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss, or in his case, boy boss. But the logs didn't lie. Friday, 10 o'clock a.m., user J admin authorizes shipment hash 88,492 to pending review status without SCA signature. Friday, 10:05 a.m., user J admin overrides missing signature warning. He was shipping. He was actually shipping. I felt a cold shiver that had nothing to do with the AC. Shipment hash 88,492 contained guidance modules for drone program. That shipment required a specific chain of custody form signed by a certified SCA. Me. By overriding that, he wasn't just breaking company policy. He was breaking federal law. He was sending untraced military hardware into the logistics stream. I picked up my phone. I scrolled to a contact named Agent Miller. Miller was my point of contact at the DCAW. We weren't friends. Auditors don't have friends, but we had a professional rapport. We spoke the same language of clauses and subsections. I hesitated. If I called him now, I would be a whistleblower. It would be messy. I'd be involved in the investigation. No, I put the phone down. The audit was Tuesday. Let the system work. The system is designed to catch this. If I intervene now, Jason could spin it. He could say it was a clerical error, a training issue. He could blame me for not handing over properly. But if the auditors found it, if the DCAW found the discrepancy themselves, that's not a mistake, that's a finding, a level 1 finding. The kind that terminates contracts. I went back to my logs. I saw something new. Friday, 14:00 p.m., compliance monitor Pi terminated by user J admin. My screen flickered. The data stream stopped. Window went gray. Connection lost. He had found the distraction. He had killed the process. I sat back in my ergonomic chair. A silence settled over the apartment, heavier than before. He thought he had just blinded me. He thought he had cut off my access to his little kingdom. What he didn't realize was that he had just turned off the only light in the room. He was now operating in the dark. He wouldn't get the alerts anymore. He wouldn't see the mismatches. He wouldn't know that the export licenses for the Tuesday shipment had expired yesterday. I closed my laptop. Okay, Jason, I said to the blank screen. You want to drive? Take the wheel. I spent the weekend cleaning my apartment. I scrubbed the grout in the shower with a toothbrush. I reorganized my spice rack. I did everything except think about the 200 people who were about to lose their jobs because the owner's son wanted to buy a Tesla with his bonus. Sunday night, I ironed a blouse, navy blue, professional, not that I had anywhere to be on Monday. But you never know, Monday, the day before D-Day. I woke up at 6 o'clock a.m., muscle memory. My body wanted to be in the car, fighting the I-35 traffic, sipping terrible gas station coffee. Instead, I made a kale smoothie and sat in my living room, watching the sun bake the world outside. I wasn't idle, I was compiling. Jason had killed the live feed. He couldn't touch the archive. The tool I built, the distraction, wasn't just a viewer. It was a localized blockchain ledger. Every entry was hashed and cryptographically linked to the previous one. You couldn't delete a line without invalidating the entire chain from that point forward. It was a trick I picked up at a cybersecurity conference in Vegas 3 years ago. I exported the file, ledger final JSON. It was a beautiful thing, a perfect, unalterable timeline of stupidity. Page 14, Jason granting access to unauthorized interns. Page 22, Jason disabling the encryption on the HR database to make it faster. Page 45, the unauthorized shipments. I printed it, all 300 pages. I bound it in a crisp, black binder. I labeled the spine, System Integrity Logs, Q3. Then I went to the Public Procurement Database. It's a government website, ugly as sin but useful. I looked up our contract vehicle. Status, active. Key personnel, project manager. Robert, the owner, lead engineer. Sarah, security control assessor. Sabrina, last name, my name was still there. This was the trap. To remove me from the contract, they had to file a Form 404B with the contracting officer. It takes about 2 weeks to process. Jason hadn't filed it. He probably didn't know it existed. As far as the United States government was concerned, I was still the person responsible for the security of that facility. If the audit failed and my name was on the charter, I could be liable. I could be blacklisted. My career would be over. I needed to prove I wasn't there. I printed my termination letter, which thankfully Jason had emailed me from his iPhone. The subject line was literally "You're fired." Professionalism at its finest. Timestamp Wednesday, 14:15. I stapled it to the front of the binder. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. "Hello, Sabrina, it's Robert, the owner, the dad, the man who built the company in his garage in 1995. Hi, Robert, Sabrina, I just got back from my fishing trip. I'm looking for the audit prep files. Jason said you transitioned out." His voice sounded tired. He knew. He had to know something was wrong. Air in that building probably smelled like panic. "I was terminated last Wednesday, Robert, for cause. Apparently my workflows were a distraction." Terminated? He choked on the word. "Sabrina, the audit is tomorrow. Where are the keys to the encryption server?" "They are in the safe, Robert. Jason has the combination." "Jason says the safe is jammed." "It's not jammed. He's entering the wrong code. It creates a lockout delay. 20 minutes per attempt. If he tried it 3 times, you're locked out for an hour." Silence on the line. Then a heavy sigh. "Can you come in? Just to help us open it. I'll pay you consulting rates, double time." I looked at my fingernails. They were perfectly manicured. "I can't do that, Robert. I'm not an employee. I don't have clearance anymore. If I walk into that server room, I'm violating federal law, and so are you." "Sabrina, please, this contract?" "I know how much the contract is worth, Robert. I'm sorry. You have an innovation lead now. Let him innovate." I hung up. My hands were shaking slightly. I liked Robert. He was a good engineer, but he had enabled his son for years. He had let Jason play executive while the adults did the work. He had watched Jason bully staff, ignore safety protocols, and cut corners, and he had laughed it off as youthful energy. Well, the energy was about to go nuclear. I placed the binder on my coffee table. Looked like a tombstone. I checked the weather for tomorrow. 105 degrees, clear skies, perfect day for a fire. Tuesday morning, 8 o'clock a.m. The DCA audit doesn't start with men in suits kicking down the door. It starts with a ping and upload request. The auditors arrive on site, plug into the designated subnet, and request the initial data dump. I wasn't there, but I knew exactly what was happening. I could picture it. Conference room B. Good chairs, Robert sweating through his button down. Jason pacing, wearing his power suit, probably checking his crypto portfolio on his phone. The auditors, Agent Miller and a junior associate, sitting quietly with their government-issued laptops. Miller would ask for the System Security Plan, SSB. Jason would hand him a PDF he made in Canva that looked pretty but contained zero technical data. Miller would adjust his glasses. I sat in a coffee shop across the street from the office park. It was a Starbucks with a view of the main entrance. I wasn't stalking, I was verifying. I saw the black government sedan in the parking lot. Plate number USG 442, they were there. My phone buzzed, a text from Dave. "Dave, they asked for the log aggregation report." Jason gave them an Excel spreadsheet he typed up yesterday. Miller is laughing, literally laughing. I took a sip of my nitro cold brew, an Excel spreadsheet. He tried to fake the logs. In the world of federal auditing, falsifying logs is a felony. It's not oops, it's 5 years in Leavenworth. I opened my laptop on the small cafe table. I logged into a secure portal, MaxGov. It's a federal identity exchange system. I still had a citizen account, not linked to the company. I uploaded a file to the unsolicited evidence/whistleblower repository. I didn't tag it for the specific audit yet. I just parked it there. It was a digital dead man's switch. If they tried to pin this on me, I could point to the timestamp of the upload. "Dave, Jason is yelling at Miller. He told him the DCAW is stifling innovation. Robert looks like he's having a stroke." I felt a pang of pity for Robert. But then I remembered the exit interview Jason gave me. "You're not all in." I watched the building. It was a nondescript beige box in a sea of beige boxes. Inside, millions of dollars were evaporating. The text messages stopped for an hour. That was the deep dive phase. That's when the auditors stop asking questions and start looking at the raw data. That's when they would find the holes, the missing patches, the open ports. The shipment hash 88,492. I saw a figure storm out of the front door. It was Jason. He was on his phone, waving his arms wildly. He kicked the tire of his Tesla. Panic. He was realizing that he couldn't charm his way out of a federal compliance review. You can't network with an auditor. You can't buy them lunch. They operate on binary logic. Pass, fail, compliant, non-compliant. Jason walked back inside, looking smaller than I had ever seen him. I finished my coffee. It was time to move. I wasn't going to hide. If I stayed hidden, the narrative was theirs to write. They could claim I sabotaged the system before I left. They could claim I stole the keys. I needed to be visible. I walked to my car and drove across the street. I didn't park in the employee lot. I parked in the visitor spots right next to the government sedan. I grabbed my black binder. I walked to the front desk. The receptionist, Sarah, looked up. Her eyes went wide. "Sabrina, you can't be here." Jason said, "I'm not here to work, Sarah," I said, my voice calm and steady. "I'm here as a concerned citizen with relevant information regarding a federal contract. I have to call security, go ahead, but tell them I have the encryption keys for the safe." Sarah hesitated. She picked up the phone. "Mr. Robert, Sabrina is in the lobby, she says. She says she has the keys." A pause. "Send her back," she whispered. I walked through the double doors. The air conditioning hit me. It smelled like industrial carpet and fear. The hallway was quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet where people are hiding in their cubicles pretending to type so they don't get yelled at. I passed the server room. The door was propped open with a fire extinguisher. I could hear the fans screaming from here. 78 degrees my ass. It felt like a sauna in there. I turned the corner to the executive wing. Jason was standing outside the conference room door, his tie loosened, sweat beading on his forehead. He looked like a prom date who had just crashed his dad's Porsche. He saw me and bristled. The arrogance flickered back on, weak and desperate. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. "I told security to ban you. I'm here to save your dad from prison, Jason. Get out of my way, you sabotaged us." He pointed a shaking finger at me. "You locked the files. I told Miller it was your fault. I told him you were a disgruntled employee who planted a logic bomb." Logic bomb? I almost laughed. "Jason, you don't even know what a logic bomb is. You think fishing is something you do on a lake. I'm calling the police," he bluffed. The conference room door opened. Robert stood there. He looked 10 years older than he had last week. His face was gray. "Jason, shut up," Robert said. His voice was a rasp. "Dad, I said, shut up." Robert roared. It was the first time I had ever heard him raise his voice at the boy. Jason recoiled, shrinking against the wall. Robert looked at me. He looked at the binder in my hand. "Do you have the keys?" "I have the keys," I said, "and I have the logs." "Come in," Robert said. I stepped into the conference room. Agent Miller was sitting at the head of the table. He looked up, his expression unreadable. Beside him was the junior auditor, a young woman who looked like she was witnessing a murder. The table was covered in papers, useless papers, marketing slicks, printouts of emails, screenshots of the website, the detritus of a panic attack. "Miss?" Miller asked. "Sabrina," I said. "I was the security control assessor until last Wednesday." Miller glanced at his notes. According to the roster provided by Mr. Jason, the SCA role was sunsetted in favor of an agile security matrix. "That's a fascinating way to say fired for doing my job," I said. I placed the black binder on the table. It landed with a heavy thud. Jason squeezed into the room behind me. "She's lying, she's bitter. She refused to adopt the new protocols." Miller held up a hand. "Mr. Jason, please, sit down." Jason sat. Miller looked at me. "We have a significant problem, ma'am. We have identified several critical nonconformities. Specifically, regarding inventory control and chain of custody. We cannot verify the integrity of the shipments made in the last 4 days." "I know," I said, and Miller continued, his eyes narrowing. "We are unable to access the historical logs to verify prior compliance. We have been told the system is corrupted." "It's not corrupted," I said, "it's encrypted. And the log aggregation tool was terminated manually on Friday at 2:00 p.m. "By whom?" Miller asked. I didn't look at Jason. I didn't have to. "I can restore access to the historical data," I said. "I can show you that up until Wednesday at 2:15 p.m. This facility was 100% compliant. And after that?" Miller asked. "After that," I said, "I was buying groceries." Robert put his head in his hands. "Show us," Miller said. I walked over to the presentation console. I didn't ask for permission. I unplugged Jason's laptop, which was displaying a screensaver of a Lamborghini, and plugged in my own machine. The projector hummed. A command line terminal appeared on the big screen. Green text on black. "Stark. Brutal. This," I said, typing in a command, "is the heuristic log aggregator. The distraction." I pulled a small USB key from my pocket, the physical key I kept on my keychain. I inserted it, deciphering archive, access granted. The screen filled with data. Rows and rows of timestamps, user IDs, and action codes. "Agent Miller," I said, "you were asking about the shipments." I filtered the log. Grep shipment grep override the screen populated with 12 entries, all from the last 4 days, all tagged with the user J admin. Shipment hash 88,492, security check override. Shipment hash 88,493, export license check override. Shipment hash 88,494, weight variance ignored. The room went silent. The only sound was the fan on the projector. Jason stood up. That's manipulated. She wrote that code. She made it say that? Miller looked at Jason with a look of pure bureaucratic disdain. Son, these logs are cryptographically signed. Unless she has a quantum computer in her purse, she didn't fake this. Miller turned to Robert. Robert, these logs show that your acting administrator systematically bypassed every critical control in your shipping process. You sent unverified guidance hardware to a naval depot. Robert looked pale. I didn't know. He told me he was optimizing the workflow. Optimizing, Miller repeated, tasting the word like sour milk. But wait, I said, there's more. I ran another query. Grep delete grep system Friday 14:00 J admin deleted audit alert daemon. Friday 14:05 J admin deleted firewall rule 44. He turned off the alarms, I said softly. He didn't just drive the car fast. He cut the brake lines so the dashboard light would stop blinking. Miller closed his laptop. It was a final, heavy sound. This is a Category 1 failure, Miller said. His voice was devoid of emotion. It is a willful violation of the NIST 800 to 171 controls. It is a critical failure of the CMMC requirements. He looked at Robert. We are recommending immediate suspension of the contract pending a full criminal investigation. Criminal. Jason squeaked. Fraud, Miller said. Billing the government for compliance services while knowingly bypassing compliance is fraud. Tampering with security logs is obstruction. Robert sank into his chair. He looked like a balloon that had lost all its air. The company he built over 30 years was dead, killed in 4 days by a fleece vest and an MBA, but, Jason stammered, but we shipped on time, the metrics, the efficiency. You shipped garbage, I said. You signed your name to it. Miller stood up. We're done here. We will need copies of all these logs, Miss Sabrina. Can you provide them already on the drive, I said, and I uploaded a copy to the secure whistleblower portal this morning, just in case. Miller nodded, a flicker of respect in his eyes. Good. Miller and his associate began packing up. The sound of zippers and clicking latches was the only thing filling the room. Jason was staring at the screen, at the lines of green text that had condemned him. He looked like a child who couldn't understand why the vase broke after he threw it. Dad, Jason started. Dad, listen. I can fix this. We can appeal. It's a misunderstanding. Robert stood up. He moved slowly like an old man. He walked over to Jason. I thought he was going to hug him, or maybe hit him. Instead, Robert reached out and ripped the badge off Jason's belt. He tore it so hard the plastic clip snapped. Get out, Robert whispered. Dad, get out of my building, Robert said, his voice shaking with a rage so deep it vibrated the table. You didn't just lose the contract, Jason. You destroyed my name. You destroyed everything I built. Get out before I kill you myself. Jason looked around the room. He looked at me. He looked for an ally. He found only the cold, blue light of the projector reflecting off my glasses. He turned and ran. He literally ran out of the room. We heard the front door slam moments later. Robert stood there, breathing hard. He looked at me. There were tears in his eyes. Sabrina, he said. I said, just don't. Miller cleared his throat. Miss Sabrina, regarding the logs, since you are not an employee, we will need you to sign a sworn affidavit regarding their authenticity. Happy to, I said, and Miller added, given the unique circumstances, DECA might have some contract work for you. We need people who understand how to catch this kind of thing. I smiled, a small, dry smile. I'll think about it. My rate just went up. I unplugged my laptop. The screen went black. The truth vanished back into the silicon. I'm sorry, Robert, I said, and I meant it. He was a weak father, but he wasn't a bad man. He just loved the wrong person more than he loved his legacy. I should have listened, Robert said. You told me the tool was important. I told you it was vital, I corrected. Jason told you it was a distraction. I picked up my binder. You have the files. Agent Miller, I'm going home. My succulents need watering. The walk to the car was different this time. Last Wednesday, I walked out feeling like trash, discarded, useless. Today, I walked out feeling like the angel of death. The sun was still hot. The asphalt was still baking. The air felt lighter. I saw Jason's Tesla in the parking lot. He was sitting in it, head on the steering wheel. He wasn't going anywhere. He probably didn't know where to go. His entire identity, the innovation lead, the heir apparent, the business genius, had evaporated in a conference room in less than 20 minutes. I didn't wave. I didn't key his car. I just got into my Camry and drove away. The company folded 3 months later, without the defense contract. The cash flow dried up instantly. Robert sold the assets to a competitor for pennies on the dollar. The building is empty now, just a for lease sign fading in the Texas sun. Jason, last I heard, he's trying to launch a crypto-based energy drink startup in Miami. Good luck with that. The SEC is a lot less forgiving than the DCAW. As for me, I'm sitting on my balcony. It's dusk. The heat is finally breaking. I have a cold beer, a Shiner Bock. My laptop is open. I didn't take the job with the DCAW, too much travel. Instead, I started my own consulting firm, Compliance Recovery Solutions. My first client, the competitor that bought Robert's assets. They hired me to audit the mess Jason left behind. I'm charging them 3 times my old salary. I opened the folder on my desktop named The Fall. I scrolled through the logs one last time. It's a masterpiece of failure. A tragedy in JSON format. I right-clicked, delete. I don't need the proof anymore. I lived it. I took a sip of my beer and put on my headphones. I queued up a video, Danny DeVito eating a hard-boiled egg 10 hours asthma. Don't judge me, it's soothing. It's the sound of someone who knows exactly what they are doing it perfectly with zero pretension. The world is full of Jasons. They wear vests, they use buzzwords, and they break things they don't understand. But as long as there are people like me, the people who read the manuals, who check the logs, who save the receipts, the Jasons will always lose. Eventually,